The hospital's sterile hum still echoed in my ears as I stepped in the house I'd given my daughter, Lila, and her husband, Theo. 5 days ago, a stroke nearly claimed me. Flatlined twice on the table, the doctor said. Now, home at last, my throat was dry as desert sand. All I wanted was a glass of water, a small kindness after the fight to survive. Lila, could you grab me some water? I called, easing into the recliner, each breath tugging at the fog of recovery. Her shadow paused in the kitchen doorway, and when she turned, her eyes were ice. We're not your maids, Dad. The words slashed through me, sharper than the stroke's aftershocks. Lila, my little girl who once drew hearts on my birthday cards, stood there with a stranger's sneer. Theo didn't even glance up from his phone, thumbs dancing over the screen like my request was background noise. I'd poured my life into this house. Every brick, every shingle. Bought with your mother's sacrifice, and this was her gratitude? My chest tightened, not from the stroke, but from a betrayal that cut deeper than any scalpel. They thought they owned this place. Owned me, but they were wrong. I leaned forward, wincing as the room tilted slightly. I just got out of the hospital. Lila, I'm asking for help. My voice cracked, weaker than I wanted. Her arms crossed, wedding band glinting like a warning. The sink's right there, Dad. You've got legs. Theo snorted, still glued to his phone, muttering, What's next? Cooking his dinner? The air grew heavy, their words piling like stones on my chest. I'd given them everything. College tuition, their wedding, this house. And they couldn't spare a drop of water? I pushed myself up, legs trembling, the ache in my skull pulsing with every step to the kitchen. Each movement was a rebellion against their dismissal, a silent vow that I wasn't as powerless as they thought. The faucet's cold water hit the glass, but it tasted like ash. Through the window, the backyard glowed under Seattle dusk, a reminder of the life I'd built. They didn't know it yet, but something was stirring in me, a plan, a reckoning. What I'd do next would shake their world to its core. Hey, if this story's hitting you as hard as it hit me, hit that like button, drop a comment about where you're watching from, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories that dig deep into the heart of family, betrayal, and justice. Let's keep this journey going together. As I stood at the sink, glass in hand, Lila's voice drifted from the living room, laced with irritation. He's acting like he's on death's door. Theo chuckled, low and mean. It's just a stroke. He's fine. Just a stroke. I'd stared down death twice, and they reduced it to an inconvenience. The house, this sanctuary I'd gifted them, was built on your mother's life insurance. $400,000 from Elisa's final act of love. I'd never told Lila, shielding her from the grief's weight, but their cruelty was unraveling that secret. I sipped the water, bitter with truth, and felt a spark ignite. This wasn't just about a glass of water. It was about respect, family, and the legacy they'd trampled. I glanced at the hallway, where photos of Elise and Lila hung, frozen smiles from happier days. My fingers tightened around the glass. I wasn't their servant either. Tomorrow, I'd call my lawyer, Everett Klein. They thought they could treat me like a burden in my own home. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The weight of Lila's words, "We're not your maids," clung to me like damp Seattle mist as I stood in the kitchen, the glass of water still cold in my hand. The house around me, every corner steeped in memories of Elise, felt like a stranger's domain. 5 years ago, I'd signed over this place. 3 bedrooms, a wraparound porch, a backyard where I pictured grandkids playing, to Lila and Theo. It wasn't just a house. It was Elisa's final gift, bought with a $400,000 life insurance policy she'd kept secret even from me until her cancer took her. I'd handed it to them with a full heart, believing it would keep our family close, just as she'd wanted. Now, their casual cruelty mocked that sacrifice. Lila's dismissive gesture toward the sink, Theo's smirk as he scrolled his phone. They saw this house as theirs by right, not a privilege I granted. The betrayal stung deeper than the stroke's aftershocks, but it was waking something in me, a resolve I hadn't felt since I fought to save Elise. I shuffled back to the recliner, each step a negotiation with my body's limits. The living room, with its hardwood floors I'd sanded myself, seemed to watch me, waiting for what I'd do next. Lila was in the kitchen now, humming to herself, oblivious to the storm brewing in my chest. Theo's phone buzzed with notifications, his laughter sharp as he shared some meme with her. He'll get over it, I heard him say, low and smug. Always does. My fingers curled into the armrests. They thought I was a pushover, an old man softened by grief and illness. But Elisa's memory deserved better. This house, her legacy, deserved better. I'd given them everything, $30,000 for their wedding, $10,000 when Theo's startup tanked, even covering their car payments last summer. And yet, they couldn't spare a moment's kindness for the man who'd made it all possible. Through the window, the Seattle skyline glimmered faintly, a reminder of the life I'd built here. I thought of Everett Klein, my lawyer, who'd handled the house transfer. He'd warned me about adding protections to the deed, clauses I'd barely skimmed in my rush to provide for Lila. Now, those clauses felt like lifelines. What had he called them? Reversionary provisions. Conditions that could return the house to me if they failed to honor the gift's intent. My pulse quickened, not from the stroke, but from possibility. I glanced at the hallway table where my address book sat, Everett's card tucked inside. Tomorrow, I'd call him. But tonight, I needed to test them, to see if this was a bad day or who they'd truly become. Lila, I called, voice steady despite the ache in my skull. She poked her head out, eyebrow raised. Could you grab me a blanket? It's chilly. Her sigh was audible, and Theo muttered, Here we go again. The look they exchanged was a silent agreement. I was a burden, not a father. That moment sealed it. I wasn't just fighting for a house. I was fighting for Elisa's dream, for the family she died to protect. What I'd uncover next would change everything. The Seattle rain tapped softly against the windows, a steady rhythm that matched the pulse of resolve growing in my chest. Lila's exasperated sigh still echoed in my mind, her refusal to grab a blanket as sharp as her earlier dismissal of my request for water. You're not helpless, Dad, she'd said, tossing her hair as she returned to the kitchen. Theo's chuckle followed, low and mocking, like I was some tired joke they'd grown bored of. I sat in the recliner. The house I'd gifted them, built on Elisa's sacrifice, feeling more like a battlefield than a home. Every creak of the floorboards, every photo of Elisa's smile on the wall, reminded me of what I'd given up for them. I'd paid for Lila's art degree, covered their honeymoon in Hawaii, even bailed them out when Theo's bad investments left them drowning in debt. And now, fresh from a stroke that nearly ended me, I was just an inconvenience in their eyes. But I wasn't done fighting. Not for me, not for Elisa's memory. I shifted in the chair, wincing as a dull ache spread to my head, a reminder of the stroke's lingering grip. My body was weak, but my mind was razor sharp, cutting to the fog of betrayal. I'd tested them twice, water than a blanket, and their cruelty wasn't a bad day. It was who they'd become. The realization burned, but it fueled me too. I thought of Everett Klein's words from years ago, about the deed's protections. If Lila and Theo wouldn't honor the love behind this house, I'd take it back. But I needed to be smart, to gather proof of their ingratitude before I called Everett. I glanced at the living room, where Theo sprawled on the couch, scrolling through his phone, oblivious to the storm I was brewing. Lila was unpacking takeout, her movements brisk, like my presence was a chore to be ignored. I stood slowly, gripping the armrest to steady myself, each step toward the hallway a small victory over my body's protests. The pain was a reminder. I'd survived worse than their indifference. I reached the side table where my address book lay, flipping it open to Everett's card. His number was a lifeline, but I couldn't call yet, not without evidence. I needed to catch them in their own words again, to prove this wasn't just a misunderstanding. Hey, Lila, I called, keeping my tone soft, almost frail. She appeared in the doorway, arms crossed. What now, Dad? The impatience in her voice was perfect. Another piece of the case I'd build. Just wondering if you could check my med schedule. It's hard to keep track post-stroke. Her eyes rolled slightly, and Theo muttered, He's milking this. I smiled faintly, masking the fire inside. They thought they had me cornered. But I was already planning my next move. Tomorrow, I'd record their words, turn their cruelty into evidence. What they'd say next would seal their fate. The Seattle night pressed against the windows, a heavy drizzle painting the glass as I sat in my bedroom. The door closed to muffle Lila and Theo's voices drifting from the living room, their laughter sharp and careless. Cut through me like a knife, each chuckle a reminder of their indifference. I'd survived a stroke, stared down death, and yet my own daughter and her husband treated me like a guest who'd overstayed his welcome in a house I'd gifted them, Elise's final legacy. Last night's test, asking for help with my meds, had confirmed it. Their cruelty wasn't a fluke. Lila's eye roll and Theo's snide, milking it, comment were bricks in the wall of evidence I was building. But tonight, they'd pushed too far, and I was done playing a frail old man. My heart raced, not from weakness, but from a fire I hadn't felt since Elise's funeral. They thought they could dismiss me, but they were about to learn how wrong they were. I clutched my phone, its screen dim as I activated the voice recorder, tucking it into my shirt pocket. I needed their words, undeniable proof of their ingratitude for Everett Klein, my lawyer, to use. But the plan took a darker turn when I heard footsteps in the hallway. Lila's voice, low and clipped, reached me. He's getting worse, Theo. Keeps asking for stuff like we're his nurses. Theo's reply was colder. Let's make it clear who's in charge here. The bedroom door swung open, and Lila stood there, her face a mask of fake concern. Dad, you're looking pale. Maybe you should rest. Before I could respond, Theo stepped in, his broad frame blocking the doorway. Yeah, let's get you settled, he said, his tone laced with something menacing. My pulse spiked as they guided me to bed, their hands firm, almost forceful. Then, with a click that echoed like a gunshot, Theo locked the door from the outside. I was trapped. My own bedroom, in the house Elisa's sacrifice had bought, had become a prison. I tested the door, solid, unyielding. The window beckoned, but a 12-foot drop to the patio below was a risk my stroke-weakened body couldn't take. Not yet. My phone, still recording, caught their muffled voices through the door. He'll calm down by morning, Lila said. Or we'll make him, Theo added, his laugh chilling. My breath caught, not from fear, but from clarity. This wasn't just neglect. It was control, manipulation. I had to get out, to reach Everett, to turn their arrogance into evidence. The recorder hummed softly, capturing every damning word. Outside, the rain intensified, mirroring the storm inside me. I glanced at the window again, heart pounding. If I could get to my neighbor, Calvin, he'd help. But one wrong move could end everything. What I did next would decide whether I'd stay their prisoner or make them pay. The rain battered the Seattle night, each drop a drumbeat against the window of my locked bedroom, where I sat trapped like a stranger in my own home. The air felt thick, charged with the weight of Lila and Theo's betrayal. Their voices, muffled through the door, carried the casual confidence of people who thought they'd won. Lila's sharp, he'll get over it, and Theo's cold. If he doesn't, we'll handle it. My phone, hidden in my shirt pocket, recorded every word, a silent ally in the war I was waging. I'd given them this house, bought with Elisa's $400,000 life insurance, believing it would bind our family together. Instead, they turned it into a cage, locking me away to silence my demand for basic respect. My stroke-weakened body ached, the scar on my temple throbbing, but the fire in my chest burned hotter than any pain. They thought they could control me, but I was already plotting my escape, and what I'd do next would turn their world upside down. I stood, legs shaky but driven by purpose, and shuffled to the window. The 12-foot drop to the patio loomed, a gamble that could tear open my fragile recovery or set me free. The rain-slicked frame was cold under my fingers as I eased it open, the night air sharp and alive. Below, Calvin's backyard glowed faintly under a motion light, his silhouette moving as he locked up a shed. Calvin, my neighbor 4 years, was a steady man, the kind who'd stop to chat about baseball or help jump a car. If I could get his attention, he'd be my lifeline. Calvin, I hissed, voice low to avoid alerting Lila and Theo. He froze, head tilting toward my window. Elliot, you okay? His concern cut through the drizzle, a thread of hope. I'm locked in. They took my phone. Called the police. His eyes widened, but he nodded, pulling out his phone. Hang tight, I'm on it. My heart pounded, not just from the risk, but from the thrill of defiance. The recorder in my pocket hummed, capturing Lila's faint laughter from the living room, oblivious to the storm I was summoning. Calvin's voice carried softly, relaying my address, 2417 Pine Avenue. To the dispatcher, elderly man, recent stroke, locked in his room by family. The words sounded surreal, but they were my reality. I glanced at the door, half expecting Theo's heavy footsteps. If they caught me now, the game would shift, maybe for the worse. The rain slowed, and a distant siren pricked the night. Help was coming, but so was the moment of truth. Would the police believe me, or would Lila's smooth lies turn them away? I leaned against the windowsill. The drop below a reminder of what I'd risked to reclaim my life. Whatever happened next, I was no longer their prisoner. The siren's wail grew louder, cutting to Seattle night like a blade. As I stood by the open window, the rain-soaked air cool against my face. My heart thumped hard, each beat a reminder of the stroke I'd survived and the fight I was now waging. Lila and Theo's voices drifted from the living room, their casual chatter about weekend plans oblivious to the storm I'd unleashed. My phone, still recording in my pocket, held their damning words, proof of their cruelty, their lock on my bedroom door, their lies about my confusion. I'd been trapped in this house, the one I gifted them, bought with Elisa's life insurance. But Calvin's call to the police was my first strike back. The thrill of it mingled with dread. What if Lila's charm turned the officers against me, like they planned? But then I thought of Everett Klein, my lawyer, and the legal ace up my sleeve. This house wasn't theirs, not anymore, and what I was about to do would shake them to their core. I eased away from the window, my legs trembling from the stroke's lingering weakness, and sat on the bed, keeping the door in sight. The lock held firm, a symbol of their arrogance, but my mind was on Everett's words from years ago. The deed's reversionary clause. If Lila and Theo failed to honor the gift's intent, care, respect, family, it could revert to me. I'd called him that morning, his calm voice a lifeline. Elliot, if they've mistreated you, we can revoke the gift, document everything. My recorder was doing just that, but I needed more than words. I needed action. The siren stopped, replaced by the crunch of gravel outside. Voices, Calvin's and a woman's, steady and official, filtered through the night. Police! The doorbell rang, sharp and demanding. Lila's laughter cut off, replaced by hurried whispers. What's this about? Theo's voice, tense now, carried down the hall. I stood, steadying myself against the bed frame, as footsteps approached. The lock clicked, and Lila's face appeared, her eyes wide with rehearsed concern. Dad, you okay? You look upset. The act was flawless, but I saw the panic beneath it. The police are here, I said, brushing past her into the hallway, my voice steady despite the ache in my skull. Theo blocked the living room, his jaw tight. What's going on, Elliot? Before I could answer, the front door opened, revealing two officers, Officer Mara, a woman with sharp eyes, and Officer Grant, notepad in hand. We got a call about a family dispute. Mara said, scanning us. Mr. Ward, you reported being confined? Lila jumped in, voice sweet as syrup. It's a misunderstanding. Dad's recovering from a stroke. Gets confused. I held up a hand. I'm not confused. They locked me in my room to silence me because I asked them to leave my house. The officer's eyes flicked to Lila, then Theo, who shifted uncomfortably. My recorder burned in my pocket, ready to back me up. What they'd say next would either free me or tighten their grip. The living room felt like a courtroom. The Seattle rain a faint murmur against the windows as Officer Mara's sharp gaze moved between me, Lila, and Theo. My heart thudded, not from the stroke's lingering grip, but from the weight of the moment. My phone, still recording in my pocket, held their cruel words. Lila's, we're not your maids, and Theo's milking it. Proof I wasn't confused old man they painted me as. Lila's performance was Oscar-worthy, her voice soft with feigned worry. Dad's been disoriented since his stroke. We were just keeping him safe. Theo nodded, his arm around her like a shield. The door sticks sometimes. He got upset when we suggested he rest. Their lies were seamless, but I saw the flicker of fear in their eyes. They'd locked me in my bedroom, in the house I'd gifted them, bought with Elise's $400,000 life insurance, and thought they could outsmart me. But I had Everett Klein's legal trump card, and now, with the police here, it was time to play it. I stepped forward, ignoring the ache in my temple. Officers, this house is legally mine. I gifted it to my daughter 5 years ago, but the deed has conditions: care, respect, family. They've broken everyone. Lila's face paled, her hand clutching Theo's. "Dad, that's not true," she gasped, but her voice cracked, betraying her. I turned to Officer Grant, who was scribbling notes. They locked me in my room to stop me from asserting my rights. "My neighbor Calvin called you because they took my phone." Theo's jaw tightened, and he produced my phone from his pocket, holding it out like a peace offering. He left it in the kitchen. We were charging it. The lie was bold, but Officer Mara's eyes narrowed, catching the tension in his stance. "Mr. Ward, do you feel unsafe here?" she asked. "I do," I said, voice steady. "They're using my recovery to control me, to keep me from reclaiming what's mine." The air grew thick, the officers exchanging a glance. Lila's eyes welled up, her voice trembling. "Dad, we love you. We're just trying to help." But I was done with her act. "This house was bought with your mother's life insurance." I said, the words landing like a thunderclap. "Elise died believing it would keep our family together. You've turned it into a place where I'm a prisoner." Lila's sob broke the silence, raw and real, her hands covering her face. Theo froze, his bravado crumbling as the weight of Elise's sacrifice hit them. The officers' faces softened, but Mara's voice stayed firm. "We'll need to verify this, but confinement is serious. Mr. Ward, do you have documentation?" I nodded, thinking of Everett's papers, the deeds clauses. "My lawyer has everything." The room felt charged, like the moment before lightning strikes. Lila's tears were real now, but were they remorse or fear of losing everything? What happened next would show their true colors. The Seattle dawn broke gray and quiet, the rain now a faint drizzle, as I stood in the living room, holding Everett Klein's legal papers, my final weapon. Lila and Theo sat across from me, their faces hollow, eyes red from a sleepless night after the police left. Officer Mara's warning had lingered. "We'll follow up, but settle this civilly if you can." They hadn't found enough for immediate action, swayed by Lila's tears and Theo's smooth lies about my confusion. But I wasn't confused. The house, bought with Elise's $400,000 life insurance, was legally mine, its deed laced with conditions they'd shattered with their cruelty. My phone, still in my pocket, held their recorded words, proof of their betrayal, from "we're not your maids" to locking me in my room. I'd survived a stroke, fought my way out of their cage, and now, with Everett's notice of gift revocation in hand, I was ready to end this. Their world was about to collapse, and a look in their eyes told me they knew it. I placed the papers on the coffee table, the official letterhead stark against the wood. "This is a notice of gift revocation," I said, my voice calm but unyielding. "You have 72 hours to leave my house." Lila's breath caught, her hands trembling as she reached for the documents. Theo leaned forward, his face tight with disbelief. "You can't do this, Elliot. This is our home." I met his gaze, unflinching. "It's mine. You lived here because I trusted you to honor Elise's sacrifice. You chose to treat me like a burden instead." Lila's sob broke the silence, raw and desperate. "Dad, we didn't mean it. We were stressed, scared about your stroke." Her words faltered as I held up a hand. "You locked me in my room, lied to the police, and dismissed me in a house your mother died to provide. That's not stress, that's who you are." Theo's voice rose, a last grasp at control. "We'll fight this. You're not thinking straight." I smiled faintly, Everett's words echoing in my mind. "Their lies about your confusion are elder abuse." My lawyer disagrees. "The deed reverts to me for your ingratitude. You got 72 hours, or it's eviction proceedings." Lila collapsed into a chair, tears streaming, the papers slipping from her fingers. Mom's insurance, we didn't know, she whispered. You didn't know because I protected you from that pain, I said, the weight of Elisa's memory steadying me. But you dishonored her by treating me like this. Theo stood, fists clenched, but his eyes betrayed defeat. They'd lost, legally, morally, and the silence that followed was my victory. As they began packing, I felt peace settle over the house. Elisa's presence almost tangible. What they'd do next was their burden, not mine. The house was quiet now. The Seattle rain a soft whisper. As I sat in my recliner, the keys warm in my hand. Lila and Theo were gone, their car fading down Pine Avenue with the last of their belongings. The coffee table held Elisa's insurance papers, a reminder of her love that had built this home, a sanctuary reclaimed. I walked the rooms, each step lighter than the last, the ache in my temple fading with the weight of justice served. Elise would have been proud, not of revenge, but of the stand I took to honor her dream of family. The photos on the wall, her smile, Lila's childhood grin, felt like a promise kept, not broken. I wasn't alone. Her memory filled the silence, a gentle peace I hadn't felt since her passing. Maybe one day, Lila would learn from this, would carry kindness forward. For now, I had my home, my dignity, and the strength to start anew. If this story moved you, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment. Where are you watching from and what hit you hardest? Subscribe for more stories of heart, betrayal, and triumph. Let's keep this journey going together.